Well, these are more products I've bought that I could just have made moonshine or something if it was legal, and used moonshine in my vehicle to clean out the carburetor, the valves, the pistons, the top of the pistons, and the combustion chamber, and the intake manifold, and this valve seat, the needle valve seat, and the carburetor, and all that garbage. Instead of buying this crap, a lot of times I use this. I'll spray it in the carburetor after this El Camino sits a while, and I'll let it sit, and that really does clean out the carburetor pretty good versus using like gum out. Does quite a bit better job. Now I just used this thing for about 15 miles to it right now, and the idle did get a lot better after using it 15 miles, and did pretty much straighten it out with starting fluid. But I'm going to put some of this in there. But if I could just make a couple gallons of moonshine and stick it in the back of this El Camino every once in a while, I wouldn't have to buy this crap. And I don't understand why Florida doesn't let you make your own moonshine. It was, I know what they're saying about, you don't know if it's regulated or whatever, but I mean, for crying out loud, how about for vehicles? I already know why the federal government has it illegal, because the federal government's owned by the big oil companies. And also the federal government's a racket unto itself. They want to collect all the tax money for gasoline, and also the tax money on alcohol. That's why I don't have too much of a problem for you making beer or wine, because beer and wine is not as taxed as much. But in Florida, it used to be a big moonshine state, and they shot themselves in the foot by doing this crap. Now see, the other side of it is, they don't think of it this way. They only think of what's going on right at the end store, say, for instance. I don't know if that's the right expression. But, like, in other words, they think, well, we're going to get this much revenue. But for every dollar they take that much more out of the economy, because where they're taking it from is all the working class and middle class people who are the stimulus of the economy. Which I don't like government. I don't care if it's state government, county government, or federal government. They're all getting ridiculous. They're all well beyond what the framers of the Constitution wanted. This is one of the things I'm kind of hot on, because I'm really thinking agriculture is the way out of any kind of freaking problem. But you know what would happen if there was a problem in the economy and everybody had their own gardens growing tomatoes and beets and potatoes or whatever else is out there, rosemary bushes and whatever, if they're growing oranges and lemons and all this other stuff, peach trees, if that was the case and everybody was doing it, the government would tax you on that, which is, you think that's ludicrous? It's just about as stupid as taxing you on alcohol or making it illegal to make your own alcohol. They always put that religious reason, but I don't drink alcohol. I might drink a swig of it if it was, I can make my own, because I think a shot a day is actually probably damn good for you. As long as you don't overdo it, you just do a little bit. I probably would, but I'm so much against paying the heavy taxes on alcohol, I don't even do that. But I would definitely make alcohol for cleaning and, running the engine. Like, in other words, if you put 2 gallons of moonshine, real strong stuff, and mixed in with your 17-gallon tank, which is on this El Camino, it's a 17-gallon versus the 21-gallon. That's enough to clean everything out. Might run a little crappy at first, but once it gets through the system, it's going to clean everything out. Alcohol used to be the de facto fuel of choice for the Model T, till Rockefeller freaking screwed us over with Prohibition. He's the guy that pushed it. He used the religious people to push it, but the real deal is he was just doing that so he can monopolize the market on the fuel that was being sold to this new upcoming mode of transportation, automobiles, right? In other words, it was the de facto fuel, used to be alcohol, but then nobody wanted to use gasoline because it was dirty. The engine didn't last as long, the oil got dirtier quicker, so the oil got dirtier quicker, which means the engine wore out faster. It stunk, As a matter of fact, if you're running alcohol today on all these cars, and if you didn't even have all these computerized emissions components, and you're using the old carburetors, and you adjusted the carburetors so they can run on alcohol, and you adjusted the timing so they could run on alcohol, the emissions would be almost zero. And we can be getting all our fuel from food products, leftover waste food products from agriculture, rotting products that, maybe they're throwing away, or industrial hemp, which that's why they made that illegal. So I was just going over here to the store, and it's not much money, but I'm thinking, well, it's just so much money that I could spend it on something else. And I don't understand why the state of Florida is all hot on protecting the oil industry. How many refineries do we have in the state of Florida? None. I don't think we have any. I think they're down in like Louisiana at the mouth of freaking the Mississippi or something like that or whatever, but they're not over here. We don't have, they got stuff maybe off the Gulf coast, maybe some oil rigs or something, but really not that much, man. I don't think there's that much off in Florida as far as oil refineries and stuff. So I don't even know why the state, so, it's like they don't think past their nose. So say I spent, I don't know, $4 on that, 3. So, 5 times 3, 15, $19. Well, that's $19 I could have spent on somewhere else in the local economy instead of going to these big corporations that sell this crap. And the local economy would have been stimulated by $19 times 10. Because once it gets in somebody's hands, it goes into somebody else's hands. But no, we got to go in the big box store and buy this shit, So, anyway, just saying it, just putting it out here because I'm going to tell you right now, the deal is that, the government doesn't even think past its nose. But they don't give a shit because they're all in there. It's always like they protect their job as long as the public doesn't get mad at them. That's one. And they always got to make it look like they're doing something. That's two. And they always, and the other thing is, they're owned by the big corporations behind the scenes to push stuff like this. Like, in other words, John D. Rockefeller pushed to make moonshine illegal, and I'm sure he bought up a bunch of politicians to help push through that Prohibition Amendment, which of course didn't work out, but still after Prohibition started in 1920, I think it lasted 13 years, it was it was abolished with an amendment to the Constitution in 1933. But then after that, they still kept in all the stupid rules about making your own alcohol, unless you get a permit from the federal government. But then on top of it, the state has stuff. Now, Florida used to be a big moonshine haven, illegal moonshine haven. Even after Prohibition used to be, it was over with. It was a moonshine haven throughout the 30s, in the 40s, and even in the 50s, big time. Then the state started cracking down. And I'm thinking, the state actually shot itself in the foot. And the only way the state of Florida is actually making money now is through all these retirees coming down here. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I don't think that shit's going to last forever. Because the government's going broke. And one of the first ones they'll knock out, they won't knock out the active duty military. Because they need that. They always need them. What they'll knock out is Social Security, retirees, and anybody that's not active, doesn't have an active role in enforcing the rules of the government, which are basically in place by the behest of the monopolistic capitalist corporations. And I say capitalist in the way I call them monopoly corporations. Just like the railroads back in the 1800s, they pushed for the Interstate Commerce Act to quell competition from other railroads. That's really where that shit came about. And the Commerce Department. Bunch of bullshit. Now you got the Energy Department. The Energy Department, we don't need. What we need is freedom of moonshine. And then we got all the energy in the world we need. We can grow our own. Especially in sunny states with Florida with huge aquifers under the ground. Which would clean the air too. And it would also make the engines run much more cleaner and more efficiently. And we wouldn't be giving money to the big corporations. And the money would still be spent somewhere. It would be spent in the local economy. But again, government, whether it's federal, county, state, or whatever, is a monopoly unto itself. And they're also like a union. The government in itself is almost like a union itself. The union of the government employees, even though there's no such thing as a formal union of the government employees, They have their own vested interest in mind. Self-perpetuating their job. You give their jobs, you give them a rationale for their jobs, or excuse for their jobs. They got to be doing something. So the more rules they make, the better it is for them. But that's not good for us. So anyway, over that. The more stuff I put out like this, the better. You got to get the word out there.